Hello YouTube and welcome back to Java. This is Java tutorial number 5. I am the best Mac tutorials and I'm on a PC. So let's just get started with today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about making your own objects. We already made objects like scanner objects, random objects, any kind of object you can imagine you can make in Java. And so today we will be making our own kind of class, and then we'll make an object of that class. And we'll do some cool stuff with it. We'll be implementing what we learned about methods last time and basically stacking upon almost everything else we've done so far. So, what is an object? Well, if I have java.util.wildcard imported, that means I can make a scanner object. Scanner in equals new scanner system.in, right? We've already gone over this. Pretty straightforward. I'll just go over the syntax again so we can kind of understand. And then we'll get a deeper understanding of how this syntax really works when we make our own object. So, scanner in. We're creating the object. It's called in. It's a type scanner. And we set that equal to a new scanner object that has no name. In is basically a pointer to it in memory of a new scanner with the parameters system.in passed to the constructor. So, what does that mean? Well, file, new, class. We're going to create an object, person. What does a person do? Well, a person does a lot of things. But let's program some things in. Now, there are several things that we can automatically basically import. I'm going to import java.util.wildcard in case we want to use some random things. Probably won't use any scanner with the object though. So, inside of here, let's just put a comment, person class. Good to get into the habit of commenting. I'm horrible at remembering to comment. Then we'll make a method. Let's do a method public static int. It's going to return an integer. Count num toes. And no parameters passed to it. We'll return 10. They have 10 toes. Now, some people have 9, some people have 11. There are some differences, but for the sake of our argument, we're going to leave it as a hard-coded 10. Now, what about public static string name? And string has to have a capital S, like this. Alright, so this will return a string. Now, return name. We don't have name yet. Let's make that. Public private string name equal private string name. Now, we're going to do a constructor. And what does a constructor look like? Well, actually, if you do file, new, class, and in this you choose constructors from superclass, let's just name this whatever, person 2. It'll have a constructor like this. It's just public, then the name of the class, and that's it. You can put parameters in here. So we don't need this anymore. But our constructor will look like this. Public, person, just like that. And that's our constructor. The constructor is called when the object is initialized. Now, if I put a string name in here, then whenever you create the object, you have to pass it one string, and that's going to be the name. We now set name equal, actually we set this dot name equal to name. This dot name refers to this, whereas name refers to this. This dot name, this will refer to class variables, at least in this case. This case. Anyway, so this dot name equals name, just like that. If you want to avoid the confusion of using the this keyword, you can do, you know, private string person name, and then here it can just be name, or vice versa, or whatever. You can change that so they don't use the same name. But if they both are called name, you use this dot name equals name. So it'll return name, and it cannot make a static reference to the non-static field name. Now, since it's an object, we don't need static here. We can actually have all of these just public int, whatever. So, you don't need static. You can have it or not have it, depending on what you're doing inside of that method. For now, though, don't even worry about that. Just leave static out. So what about public string set eye color? And you pass it a string color. Alright. Now we'll create another class variable here. Private string eye color. Now, the reason it's getting mad at me here is because I don't have a return statement yet. So we'll return, actually we'll return nothing. We'll do public void. Void, because we're not returning anything, all we're doing is setting the eye color. So, we'll do iColor equals color. And this confused the whole, eliminated the whole confusion with the this keyword. So, they call set iColor and they pass it a color, blue, green, red, bananas, whatever, and it'll set the string iColor equal to whatever they passed it. Now we want a method for getting that, public string get iColor, and they won't have to pass it anything because all it's doing is returning the iColor, and we'll do return iColor like that. Simple, very straightforward. Once you get the hang of it, it's just second nature. So, anything else we want to know about our human? Let's say, do you want to do anything like skin color or anything like that? Let's try something like gender. So, public, public, we could do it a boolean, 1 or 0, and have them correspond, or we could do it a string, guy, girl, or we could do it an integer, 0, 1. We could do it however we want like that. I'm just going to do a string. Public string get gender, and that will return gender. Of course, we haven't made gender yet, so let's do that. Private string gender. Alright, and let's take care of this, and actually we can just delete this. Let's take care of setting gender in our constructor. This is our constructor, remember? So we already set our name. Now let's do a random number generator. It's approximately a 1 in 2 chance of being a boy or a girl. It's almost completely even. There have been some studies that showed it's more like 50.1%, slanted towards females slightly, but whatever. We're not going to worry about that. So we'll make a random object. Random equals new random. Not at all repetitive or redundant. And then we'll do if random.next int next int 2 is equal to 0. Kind of a little bit confusing. We called, instead of setting an integer storage to random.next int and then comparing that, we're using it right in here, and you're probably saying, well, wait, but then you do else if random.nextInt 2 equals 1, you get a different result, right? No, I have a different idea. So if random.nextInt equals 0, let's do gender equals male, and we'll do else. So if this wasn't true, we don't have to call a new number generation or anything. We don't have to call another integer. This is a little bit faster in memory, I think. Gender equals female. Quite simple like that. And so now let's test it out. Let's go back here, and let's create our person object. We don't need that anymore. Actually, yeah, let's leave it in. We can use that later on. So let's do person. Person1 equals new person. Remember, we have to pass it a name. Let's do some kind of name that's unisex that can be used both ways. Let's say something like Lynn. L-Y-N-N. So we have, or let's do Sam actually. Sam. Alright, so we created a new person, and if we run this, you'll notice nothing really seems to happen. Some stuff, of course, goes on in the Java virtual machine, but nothing that we can witness, aside from, looking at memory and seeing, oh, look, there's a call stack trace here, and oh, But as far as actual output that an end user would see, there's nothing here yet. Now let's do system.out.println person1.getGender. Alright? Now, even though gender is decided randomly, every time we call it, we'll get the same thing because it's only set once. And so it's set to a random number, but then every time you call it, it returns that same random number. So, let's run this. Female. Now if we run it again, it creates a new object, so we have a good chance of getting male if we run it again. See, there we go. Although it's leaning, yeah, getting a couple more females, but that's statistical noise. So, got the gender. What else do? We did set eye color. We have to set the eye color before we get the eye color. So person1.set eye color. Isn't this nice what Eclipse does? It automatically gives you, it says, oh, you're looking for set something or another. Let me look at what methods are available that start with set, and it'll give them to you. And string color, blue. Alright. Then person1.getEye color. That's not going to do anything in and of itself because it's returning value and it says, well, what do I do with it? It's like saying, go get that water. You never explicitly said, bring it back to me, or give it to him, or anything. You just said, get that water. So it it doesn't do anything. The compiler just, it does it, but there's no actual purpose. So we have to do some kind of either printing it out or setting something equal to it to make it meaningful. System out.println person1.getIColor, like that. So let's run this. Female blue. Now let's also do name. System.out.println person1.getName. Alright, like that. Also in Eclipse, the way it gives you, did I do something wrong here? Get name. Oh, name, alright. Sorry about that. Like that. That's kind of inconsistent to me. You'll notice when you're typing, male blue Sam. Alright, let's run it again. Male blue Sam, female blue Sam. See, blue and Sam are both hard-coded in, whereas female is generated randomly, or male is generated randomly. The gender is generated upon construction, whenever this is called, with this. You can also make multiple constructors. You can have one that takes a string name, and you can have one that takes a string name and a gender, like this, watch. Public person, string name, gender, or string gender, like that. And it's a second constructor. Then you do this dot name equals name, same as above. Then you can do, instead of doing all the random shenanigans, gender, this dot gender equals gender. So watch this. Now, when I run this, every time it's going to be random, male or female. Blue and Sam are both hard-coded into our code right here. But see, we'll get female in just a second here if we keep doing this enough. There we go. See? Now, since we changed and we have alternate constructors, we have two different constructors that we can use. We can actually, instead, we can do new person Sam male, like this. And so, without doing anything but just adding that, we now every time will find that Sam is a male. Because the fact that I passed it two strings tells it, hey listen, sorry, hey listen, there's two constructors, one is past one string, one is past two strings. He's passing us two strings, so he wants this one. It's smart enough to realize that, so it calls this one with name and gender. And it sets, you don't have to put a space, but I just like it for readability. Then it says, alright, we'll do this. So there's no random generation when you give it a gender automatically. Now when you don't, it'll generate one for you. We could even make a third constructor with iColor. Not going to bother with that. You already get the drift of how this works. But let's do something a little bit more advanced. Let's do concatenation with calls. So let's do system.out.println. And we do person1.name plus is a plus person1.getGender plus with plus person1.getIColor plus colored eyes. Alright, so let's try this now. Let's put a semicolon first, then let's just start this out. What will it give us? Sam is a male with null colored eyes. Null? Why? Because we deleted where we set his name. This was his eye color. This is a good demo of what the defaults are. If you don't set anything and you call it and you're trying to get a variable which doesn't have anything stored, it automatically defaults to null. Null means nothing. Nan. You also see nan, N-A-N. That means not a number, generally, but you'll get zilch, nothing. And so it'll return null. For a number, it will return 0. So, generally, it'll return 0. So, let's set eyes. Let's do person1.setIColor. Hazel green. I don't even know if that's how they say it when it's hazel and green. I have no idea. But, moving on. Hazel green eyes. Sam is a male with hazel green colored eyes. Probably don't want capitals here. But does it really matter? No. The basic concept is the same whether you have capitals or not. So, we can create an object, we can have it do stuff, and we can create this object with different parameters and then call its methods in order to get stuff done with it. Obviously, in this example, it might have been easier to just hard code the things into the program. Obviously, instead of creating an object and setting things to that object. But when would an object be useful? Well, for example, in a graphics application, it would be great to have objects instead of every time just looking at all the pixels and doing all the figuring out yourself without any kind of objects and everything. That is a total mess. Instead, you can have a bunch of graphics objects. You don't even have to make the objects yourself, but you can have objects for all kinds of things. And say, for example, you had an application where people sat down at a desk and they filled out some information to make an account, and that account then had, it did calculations and stuff to return, say, what they have to pay on their taxes. Let's just say a real simple example with taxes, what's your income, do you have any, disabilities or whatever. If it does, it'll factor that in somehow. Then multiplies your total income by a percentage, prints that out, and stores it in a file. We haven't gotten really to networking, but file I/O, say we just wrote to a file. I don't think we've gotten to file I/O either, but say we just wrote it to a file, and then, put on the first line his name, the second line his date of birth, the third line his income, the fourth line whether he paid his taxes or not, and the fifth line whether he's on disabilities, or whatever order you want. In fact, you could even name the file, whatever his name is, but then the program could go in and when it reconstitutes that file, when it takes it and pulls the information out of it, it could create an object. So instead of them having to say, alright, go to file 27, line 4, and read me the information there, it could say, call the object, whatever his, social security number is, 00102448, whatever, dot get income, or dot get whatever. So when you use the program, it can reconstitute the contents of a file into an object, and it can be really easy to use. Java is object-oriented programming. That's what OOP means, Java OOP, Object-Oriented Programming Language, OOPL. And object-oriented programming is very great in the reusability of a lot of things. Now, something to keep in mind is, and I ran into this issue while making graphics objects that would kind of fall from the sky, you will quickly run out of memory, because just because you have a graphics object that goes off the screen doesn't mean the program says, oh, he's done with it. No, the garbage collector doesn't realize that, and you can't really do anything about it. So what you want to do is you want to reuse objects. So what we could do is we could have a bunch of methods in our person object, and it's not a big deal with smaller objects like a person, but when you're having graphics and it's pulling out pixels of an image and byte shifting, you don't want to be making a bunch of them. You want to be reusing. But let's just take this for an example, this person object. If I in person wanted to make this completely reusable, I would put in a couple methods like set name and set gender. So that then when I'm reconstituting, I can pull from a file, I can set the name, the gender, if it was a tax file, set the income, set the social security number, whatever, set that all, get it all lined up. And then once I'm done with that object, instead of just discarding it and hoping the garbage collector sees it, which it probably won't, instead, what you can do, which is a great idea, is you can reuse it. You can take that same object and say, alright, now I'm done with whatever I need to do with him. Now I'm going to set the name to this, set the social security number to this, set the birth date to that, whatever. And it's really an efficient way for managing a bunch of objects is to reuse objects if you don't need them all at the same time. Now, you could even make it simpler, and you could have a method in here that said, set fields, and then you give it a file name, and it would take that file, it would automatically parse through it, figure out everything that it needs to do, pull it out, and plunk it into itself, so you wouldn't have to do that manually. But you get the gist of it, and a lot of times you can create objects, and that object can create another object, and you have this whole object chain just from creating one object that you did, and it can really help to kind of get a lot of things running. To say I want this and I want that running. I can create an object, and that object can instantiate both, and I can control them both from that object. Say I wanted to have a network listener and something that was reading from files. And I could certainly start them both separately, but I could create an object that deals with both of those, and from there I could just create some kind of multi-threaded application. And you don't have to worry if you're not understanding what I'm saying. We will go over all this stuff, I haven't gone over it yet at all, in another future tutorial on networking, but you can use objects for a lot of really cool things, and they are a necessity when programming in Java, to use objects. So, thank you for joining me. This has been another great Java tutorial. Well, great as in I've had fun doing it. But anyway, and I think it went smooth. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or send me a personal message on YouTube, and I'll try to reply and get everything fixed for you. and working. I will have the source code to this readily available. This I'm not going to include the source code, but I will have the source code for person.java in the description. There will be a Mediafire link to it. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, subscribe, whatever, or dislike. If you dislike, please tell me why so I can try to fix the things, because it doesn't do me any good if you dislike it and then move on. It doesn't tell me anything. If you dislike it and say, hey, you got to do this instead, or hey, you were wrong about that, then I can go in, I can add an annotation, I can fix it, I can solve the problem. But if you just dislike it, I have no idea what's going on, so it's just like, alright, well, whatever. So, if you want me to change something, leave a comment and tell me what. Also, our next tutorial will be focusing on probably file input-output and how to use kind of the scanner class for some other cool things that we'll be getting into for file I/O, chopping through files, separating a bunch of things, reconstituting objects from files. We'll be focusing on that. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.